Hi, this is Dr. RuthaCameron, your pastoral teacher. Today I have a message for you from David, and it starts at the 51st Psalms and verse 4. I'll read it for you. And is my sin always before me? Against you, you only, I have sinned, and done this evil in your sight, that you may be found just when you speak, and blameless when you judge. Why would David say these words when obviously he knows that he sinned against others? David's cry of confession is because of this sinful act that he done. When he took Bathsheba, he killed her husband Uriah, and later down the line, a few months, their son died. And this was all because of David. Sin holds a posture of defiance towards God's command and God's sin. The assault has been put and placed on God. David, he even assaulted the glory of God. He was rebellious and he was against God. Too often, when we confess things, we confess stuff that was done. We're thinking that it was done towards others. No, my sister and brother, the offense was against God. No, David didn't pay the darkness he failed. Even though he was still a man after God's own heart. David always returned his love for God. David always repented, and he understood his weaknesses. God continues to reset his life towards him. He was always directing David in the right direction. David knew he wouldn't be able to live long separated from God. He knew that his sin was the idea that caused all these particular things to happen. So when David said, against you only I have sinned, he was acknowledging that he all along was being rebellious. He asked for forgiveness and for dismissal of God's command. Now Nathan came to David and asked him, why do you despise the word of the Lord by doing evil in his eyes? David was emphasizing the direct assault on God that David himself caused with these acts. God forgave David because of his repentance, but David paid a serious price for his actions. God forgive us too in everything that we do. Could you imagine? David said to God, he said, if I'm separated from you, I can't live. That's a deep price to pay, your life. David knew he couldn't make it without the Lord. Do you know what David knows? Do you know that we really can't live separated from God, separated from this life that we live? If we have no God, we have nothing. And like David did, God forgave him. He forgave him in every area of his life. Sometimes we do stuff and we think that we are people pleasers. It's not about the people, it's about God. As David himself found out that he already knew. Would you be willing to put those words on the line? If I'm separated from you, I can't live. I don't know which direction to go in. I don't know who to guide me. I don't know who can and will show me the way. I don't know how to lean to my own understanding because God was the one who's been propelling me all the way, and he's propelling you too. With no God in your life, you have nothing. You have no one. Through God, all things are possible. Through God, all things we can withstand. To God, we can see the light. There's light. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We can see it. We can see that God is only because of God. The things that are happening in the world today, it's the same thing that David faced. He faced a lot of things that we deal with today. Our men and women, we continuously and always want to do what we want to do. That's not the way it's going to happen. We have to go to our commanding officer so that we alone can get the truth from him. Sometimes God will send someone to bring us a word or to tell us a word about something we're doing that's wrong. Instead of getting an attitude about it, sometimes you have to listen. Put your ear close and hear the God in the message that someone is giving to you. This message about David was a message of forgiveness. It was a message telling us about where we are, telling us about what he was feeling. Would you imagine that you could be in the same position? Would you imagine that things that happen in that arena of life, it can happen to us in year 2023? Yes, it can. To God be the glory, and we thank you for listening, and we ask that you will listen again.